A very good evening to all the viewers who have tuned into this live stream. Thank you very much. Our today's topic is Normalizing Conversation on Mental Health in Educational Institutions, which is hosted by us, the students of St. Xavier's College, Mumbai. I am Ms. Eva Ninan, a student of FIBA, and I am the moderator for today's session. I'd first of all like to congratulate caregiver Sati for completing their 3 years and would immensely thank them for providing us this opportunity to speak with them. I would now like to request the other panelists to come and introduce themselves.
Hello, good evening. I am Tanishka Patil, a student from first year Bachelor's of Science.
Hello everyone, myself Ben Thomas and I am a student from first years in my Bachelor's of Science.
Hey everyone, I am Rishika Pangam. I'm a first year Bachelor of Arts student and I'm studying psychology. So, since we are going to be discussing about mental health today, the first question I would like to ask everyone is how are they doing today?
You're doing really fine, but yeah, mental health is like one of the most hot topic and discussions at the moment. And it's our duty as students to start normalizing it and start the change which is needed. Don't you all think so?
Exactly. I think that is one of the most blazing topics right now, given the fact that we are in the middle of a pandemic, or at least we are trying to move out of it, and we are trying to reconnect with our social life, which is a big stressor to everyone who had almost gotten used to this isolated way of living.
Priyanka, your mic is on mute. Mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I was saying that I completely agree with what Rishika said. You know, like how this whole new normal has definitely witnessed a toll on mental health, and I can relate that everybody had their own subjective experiences. You know, throughout the pandemic, whether it was isolating oneself or losing a loved one. So I feel it was all about the collective experience of grief, social exclusion, or loss that spurred many people to think about, you know, to pay better attention to their own health and gladly to say on a mental level as well.
It's not only that it was before that this pandemic itself has led to a certain importance of mental health. It was already before. It's just that the pandemic has reinforced this idea of having a space for yourself, thinking about others and their well-being. This is what I feel.
Exactly. It has shown that how much social support is truly required with us today. Like the fact that we were so isolated from each other really made us realize how important that area of the talking with each other and meeting makes a lot of difference to our lives. Since we're talking about mental health today, how many of us have felt comfortable at least discussing that? Because it's always an issue where everyone's like, "Oh, we should all talk about it." But is everyone truly comfortable talking about it?
No,
Actually,
I don't think so at all, Rishika, because of the stigma that mental health patients are going through. it becomes extremely difficult for them to come out because the society is so judgmental of them. Like the cases where education institutions, they themselves, like they treat them as if they're some abnormal people. They're not even given proper hostel accommodations also. So it's a really long way to go, I feel.
Not only that, and I would like to add on to what Eva said. According to a UNICEF report I read a few days earlier, which was carried out in 21 countries, with India including one of them, it was actually found out that around 83% of people within the age of 15 to 24, that's roughly our age, people in other countries except India, people there are open to actually believing that we should open up to others or seek help in order to relieve mental stress and to cure mental illnesses. But that number in India is almost half. Only 41% of people in India in the age of 15 to 24 actually believe this. So this is not only so if there was someone under the assumption that okay, everyone is aware of it, our generation is aware of it, it's a thing of the older people. No, it's there is a lot of stigma within our generation as well, and the need to emphasize more on this has never been greater.
Exactly. It's almost as if we have the knowledge that it is important to talk about it, but all of us are just a little bit too timid. I think, if, for the lack of better words, to truly be able to express that at the very least.
Yeah, I guess that is what it is, stigma, right? Like it is a term that we frequently hear while discussing mental health. Maybe it's because like you cannot see it, so maybe it's not real. Like, and even we all have at least heard all these, absurd explanations and theories about mental health. Like it could be associated with person having personality flaws or someone who is not just brought up well. So I feel this whole notion reaches to such an extent where we fuel ourselves with the own stigma and shame. And that can lead to self-deprecating thoughts as well.
Not only that, it leads to such a rabbit hole of depression that even if you're not depressed, just by thinking or due to societal pressures, one might actually think they are not uh, valuable enough to the society. They lose their self worth because of it. Stigma is often a word, uh, it's a cringe word, to be frank, but we it's important we understand the impact of not discussing out in the public, and it could have devastating effects on our personality as an individual, how we deal everyday problems as well, and how we move on into the future with these thoughts, because a lot of us haven't left of the emotional baggage that that we've been carrying along. There's something to be released, not to be bottled up and carried like a luggage.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Albin. Because like we really need to understand that it is okay not to be okay, but because we as human beings cannot be all the time happy. We're always gonna face obstacles. We're gonna face crisis and whatnot, like the pandemic. So we need to mentally make our minds clear. Yes, we have to go through it. We should have the resilience to go through the situation. Only then we can able to tackle our mental health in a much better way, I feel.
Exactly. There's this huge portion of internalized shame as well that comes along with it. That am I being a burden by just expressing that? And it's almost as if I'm giving off this load I have onto others, which is something which gets real easily frowned upon.
And not only that, I believe sharing your load would actually it's a two-way process. If you're sharing a load with someone, not only you're alleviating your stress, but you're also allowing the person to whom you're sharing getting to know about your problems, or you can say you're widening their horizon as well. Empathy is something that we really need to survive, and the more you open about your problems and the more you listen to other people's problems, it will only make you more empathetic, and it's a win-win situation for everyone.
Exactly. It comes with a lot of portion of understanding the concept of empathy. What do you think about that, Tanishka?
Exactly, like just telling someone your problem gives a sense of relief, or maybe makes you feel less burdened, right?
Exactly. It helps you understand the other person as well. It allows you to put yourself in their shoes as well. And it helps you understand and have a great introspection within yourself. That makes a massive difference. Just by understanding what the other person is going through will also help you realize that and help you be a better person to an extent.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Rishika and Tanishka. Because like mental health is all about opening yourself and like you should have a safe outlet to tell your problems to a person. Which is why our education institutions, especially, should have like mental health support groups, or at least peer-to-peer like conversation on like the regular topics, so that they can at least channelize their thoughts, so that which will help to reduce the amounts of stress and anxiety that students go through the whole academic curriculum.
Exactly, especially since we are all students here, we understand the academic burden that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And it has been remarkable to me, like how we spend so much time and effort in making children memorize a lot of technical information and stuff. But yet, the minds of, like the study of our own minds, how to process our own feelings and thoughts, is not even a part of our mainstream education. And I was somewhat grateful because I had a school counselor in my, like, back in, I guess, who was introduced in fifth grade or sixth grade something. But we were never told about which topic or issues should we talk or like address to her until I opted for humanities and studied psychology. So yeah.
And I believe that is something everyone should know about. For example, if you want to open up to somebody, or if you ever approach a counselor or a psychologist, you should know now how to express yourself, or basically what topic you should be talking about, or how should you be talking about. This shouldn't be limited to students of humanities alone, because we are humans. We go through emotions like a roller coaster every day. And learning about mental health, generating awareness about mental health, this is not only for people who have severe anxiety disorders, or who are undergoing through depression or anything. If you're a human, you're experiencing emotions daily. The more you become aware of other people's problems, the more empathetic you'll become. It will be easy for you to understand their problems and to find solutions, as well as to understand your problems and understand your emotions. This is something that we have never been taught by anyone. This is something we all learn on our own, or maybe don't. So understanding your emotions is also a key part of of mental health awareness.
So true, Albin, because like as you said, understanding emotion, which is like linked to emotional intelligence, so that if once we are aware of our own emotions and we can channelize our thoughts, then we'll be able to understand our mental health, and that's the emotional intelligence is one of the key factors to a better mental health. Like, and this is a proven fact by statistics.
Exactly. Once we learn to identify our emotions, we are also able to understand why we are not behaving the way we want to behave. I have seen this multiple times amongst my peers as well. That I'm not able to be productive. I don't know why I cannot focus on my work right now, and I don't know how to go along with this. And I think that is something I can see a lot among my science friends as well, because there is this complete you're fed information continuously without having the tool how to deal with it, how to use it properly. So I would like my science batchmates to go along with it. Like, how do you exactly feel? How is that being expressed with them? Because it is a very competitive culture over there.
Any ideas, Devnandini?
Yeah, y'all can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. So, like, as y'all said, science stream is a bit different. All about pace. who person only has the quality, or you say he's a studious kind of personality. We also have an interest that mostly prioritize our mental illnesses. We didn't, as a physics student, we didn't have this subject on illness. We weren't aware about anything on this schizophrenia. We were new to these terms. And even in our schools, Tanishka, all read that we had our school counselors that
Oh.
I guess she lost the connection.
I would like to continue on what Devanandini said. Uh, since we science student, I'll let you know my experience as a science student was just after you. Uh, there's a little stigma associated with this as well. This is common. Like once you get your 10th result, the folks with most marks go to science, the most with average marks go to commerce, and the least one are arts. This is something we need to break, really,
yeah.
because your
So
marks
this is
don't.
my point of view. Mental health. It should this session actually I would view to those who have no, like me only, who have no idea about what mental health was. Actually, I read about through this channel, through caregiver. I came to know about many things, illnesses, how important, how it affects our lives and our routine. So this is it.
Yep, totally agree with you, Dev Nandini, on that. And on similar lines, like I was speaking before, uh, a lot of us in our undergraduate, before we begin our courses, we have this studying for the entrance exams, JEE, NEET exams. Everyone must be familiar with it. Even art students have CLAT exams, so many exams. So studying for these exams has been really hectic, from at least for me as well, because in the last year, first of all, there was no fixed date for when is the exam going to be held. It was always getting postponed. Then there was a notice, and then it was getting postponed. This exam related stress, it is just being too overwhelming for me, for not only me, a lot of my peers as well. And it's not limited to science alone, for all students of last year who were giving their 12th and 10th examinations. So this importance regarding health, everyone must have been aware of it by now. Ki this is something we need to talk about. Similar to like global warming, we are also living in a mental health pandemic, or at least epidemic, as I might add.
Yeah, I agree with Alvin because even I was so stressed and had a lot of anxiety while 11th and 12th. So, somewhere I thought that we should be actually taught how to cope up with this thing. Mental health should be a core subject in a school curriculum, right? And so that students have a tool to like cope up with their stress, anxiety, or even depression. Also, like being educated about it makes like it eliminates the negative stigma about the mental health, right?
Yeah, very true, Tanishka, as she said, because it is like it's the duty of the schools to like instill a mental health curriculum in the academia, and also the way I feel the school assess the children, it should be based on their own individual capabilities because every child has a unique potential. So they should be given a holistic development of their personality, not just like rote learning and mugging up things. Like they should be based on creativity and personality development, which is lacking, I feel, in our schools.
Exactly. So when I was studying psychology, I mean I still am, but back in 12th we were taught this mental health first aid plan, which was one of the chapters we had back in psychology, which taught you how to have this kit, sort of almost, to deal and understand your own emotions. And it was obviously a very interesting tool to understand. And we also were taught about this algae plan, which is basically this 5-step plan which allows you to approach someone whom you think is having a sort of a mental dilemma right now, or is sort of not in the peak pink of their mental health. And the plan talked about approaching them, listening them, giving them space, and encouraging them to talk about this plan. But one of the most peculiar things to me was this was a part of the psychology students' curriculum, and not as a part of a general syllabus, which I don't think is fair. I think every student, or every, not even student, I think every person of the society needs to have that basic understanding, because unless we are taught that this is a normal part of it and how to use it and how to make it a part of our daily lives, I don't see it going away anytime, the stigma going away anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Like in our society, verbalizing emotion is not something which is intrinsic when you become an adult. Obviously, like talking about it needs a tremendous bravery, and that will definitely come from proper education, which would which could be like a very in a detailed and respectful manner while providing an empathetic community.
On similar lines to what Priyanki said, like it is, you should be aware of how to express yourself, and this is, I believe, where your childhood too plays a role, because if you grew up in a supportive family, and if you grew up in around a peer group which actually placed more importance on exercising your emotions and stating your opinions, you're more likely to be influenced. So peer group does matter a lot. So if you are in a group which actually emphasizes, which actually considers your opinions and your, and they consider your feelings as well, to be honest. That's what so once you have such a group, and once you be with such people, it becomes easy for you to express yourself. Once you are easy to express yourself, you can alleviate all the stress associated with it. And once you're associated with all the stress, you can be as productive as anyone, so you don't have to cope up with the stress that you see on social media, like I'm with people posting up all the productive things that they've been doing, and you don't have to feel bad about
So
yourself.
Yeah, very true, Albin. And as you said about productivity, it is important for us to differentiate between toxic productivity and what is actual productivity. We need to understand, like, we should understand our own self acceptance and self worth. Like, we should only try for things which we know that we'll able to reach our goal. Because if we don't, then the failure and all that thing comes in between. So we have to understand ki how much we have to be productive. It depends upon us. And also, we should make our own decisions about what is toxic and what is not. And like there are examples of a lot of toxic friends which we have, and it is our duty to like set proper boundaries so that our mental health will not be affected by them. And social media plays a very big role in this.
Exactly. Since we're talking about social media, it also, I think we almost have noticed by this point this whole stay happy posts which we see roaming around in this perfect, beautiful pink pastel background. So, like, oh, stay happy, think on the bright side of stuff, which is not always possible. I think that's on the more rougher side of it, like always having this happy to go demeanor, which is not possible to everyone or anyone. As a matter of fact, there are going to be times when you are irritated or agitated and you need your own space. So that doesn't mean you're allowed to lash out at people. You should ask them for your own space, that I am not at my best right now, and I will probably snap at you. So it it allows you to have an healthy emotional boundary and allow the other person to understand yourself, which again roams back to the topic of empathy. I think that's one of the unique things about social media, that once that we have opened up so much to the point where we don't really it's like kind of paradoxical. Despite opening up so much, we don't really understand each other's spaces that much.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Rishika. And like talking about social media, like there's this whole glow up culture. Like we don't emphasize on the importance of mental glow, but people are just like interested in like physical glow up, like how they were a few years back. But like mentally, you're still at the same place, so it doesn't make a big difference. So we really need to understand that social media is not a platform like to just compare ourselves. We have to focus on our mental health.
And not only that, we have reached actually a point in social media, like just as Rishika pointed out, social media is a double-edged sword. you can virtually connect to basically anyone. You can release your frustration, you can say about your problems to anyone. But at the same time, due to this increased what I can say, can't say a word for it, due to so much oversharing
So
of
there
such
was a growing
problems.
research.
You're trying to speak, Devanandini?
Ah, yeah, go on.
We can't hear you, Devanandini.
I guess Harbin, you could continue. She's
Yeah,
facing issues.
net
Oh,
issues,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was on the point saying ki we've seen it's not like ki, we social media hasn't normalized mental health, or we haven't
Yeah,
done anything to
there was a
cope up
growing
with
research.
mental health. There have been many efforts to this. Movies have been made on uh, people experiencing different disorders like bipolar disorder or maybe schizophrenia. There are many movies on it. But another aspect I would think is key. At the end of the day, it's just a movie. So a part of a movie is to actually make money, and in order to make that money, there might not be 100% truth to the fact. So it's been observed there key there is just too much of romanticizing of these negative emotions, especially depression. And it's not evident in movies alone. It's also on social media channels, preferably mostly in Instagram, uh, you know, stating depression jokes as a coping mechanism while you're experiencing negative emotions. It's a new trend. It's a new trend that has been observed, and there is a need to establish a fine line between experiencing negative emotions and what is depression. And social media is actually redefining the definitions of depression and anxiety. So I also need to emphasize key whatever you're seeing on the media regarding mental health, it doesn't necessarily have to be true. So do verify your sources from where you read, and stay and learn the correct facts.
Yeah, it should be very much in a respectful and authentic manner. I think one of the things which we do not talk about is the balance of technology in our lives, and I can surely say for many of us it is out of balance. So it is. I would not say this is like sole reason for our mental health, but it can definitely trigger our emotions. And since we all can agree and relate to the fact that, like, obviously we are active social media users, right? Like, I could feel that I do find myself comparing and complaining about a lot of things on social media. Like, as Eva mentioned about the glow up culture or that girl challenge and all these vlog reels, it gets me every time. So yeah, that really takes a toll on our mental health.
Exactly. Now that your self worth is determined by the number of likes and comments, I think that brings out a whole new edge of issues. Because before that we kind of had this under. Obviously, it's not like these standards that just existed with social media, but now with social media, you have a numerical value to it, and because of that, you end up comparing yourself to a level which is unmeasurable at this point.
And like there are like results, like people go into depression because they don't get the number of likes and comments there, which is like a really saddening thing, because your self-worth should never be determined by an Instagram post or anything. Like, you should know your own self-worth, which is very important for especially our generation.
Yeah, even this FOMO thing is like very taking upon this. Like, we would check our phones like after every few minutes. That is so unhealthy.
Yeah, the mindless scrolling part is
Yeah.
really edging on everyone's heads. Yeah, so I was saying this developing your self worth and understand your self esteem is plays a major part, especially as we said before, we are all students, and now that and because similar to social media where your worth is determined by numbers, it's also with our marks that your worth will be determined by numbers. And it's kind of saddening to see that.
Yeah, since we are students and now we'll be facing, or we already have faced a lot of, this cutthroat competition, it's also crucial that we address issues like, hustling or overworking. And I feel that sometimes the notion of perfectionism or being chronically busy is also a response to trauma. And all this whole situation can come from the social conditioning that is reinforced by this reward system that basically favors over productivity.
Exactly. This perfectionism thing is truly detrimental to everyone, because you're supposed to be perfect, you are not allowed to express your lows of your life, which inevitably ends up affecting your mental health to some unbearable levels.
Yeah, and talking back about mental health, we also need to realize that like most of us, like it is statistics have shown that at least 60% of school students have gone through bullying through their middle and high school years. So bullying is like a very detrimental factor which affects everyone's mental health, especially when a child goes through it, because like it's a form of very severe emotional abuse, and once it gets affected to a person, it lives with throughout their life, and it even affects their future. And the worst part, it affects the self confidence and the self esteem of a child, which is, and I feel that our education institutions don't even like pay attention to this topic. Like it's one of the most ignored topic of the time, I feel.
Yes, of course, there are active steps being taken, but at the same time, all of this comes at the cost of understanding your emotions, which ends up again we cycle back to the same topic over there. One of the other noticeable things I have seen during this pandemic is the availability of resources. Because there you have seen like this huge divide in our society itself. One who are able to afford professional help through therapy and all, and the other section who are not. And it has really shown this massive divide we have in today's time in terms of our economic and social resources.
Yeah, very true. And especially in India, mental health professionals are very expensive. So it's only the upper strata of the society which can even afford to go to a mental health professional. And while the lower economic strata, which face even much more problems in the mental health, they cannot because of the stigma, which is the general fact. And also they don't have the resources and the means to even go through these people.
Not only that, once even if you can afford a therapist, it's difficult to find a good one because again there is always it's like a trial and error process. What you cannot if you just go out and have a therapy session with any therapist, results would vary. So you'll have to go through a lot of this trial and error process in understanding, and there are chances you might actually not even get an appointment with them because uh, there are a lot of bookings. A lot therapists don't have even enough time to actually listen to patients' problems. It's even very difficult to schedule an appointment with a famous therapist. So what can we do then? So if we can't afford a therapist, so we as normal individuals, we as students, what can we do to improve our situation? So one of the ways I suggest is to observe our near and dear ones, at least starting with our friends, our colleagues. If we notice something off in their behavior, or if they aren't being productive, they are being absent minded or stuff, just opening up to them and asking like, hey, how have you been? You don't seem good enough. Is everything okay? Just a small gesture of your empathy can even actually make their day. And it's not only that, you'll be alleviating their problems as well, you'll be broadening your horizon as well. So again, it's a win-win situation. So to so in order to make a big change, as we say, start small. start from your Start from your circle, the people around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues. Once you start doing it, it will sort of create a ripple effect, which everyone will follow suit. So I think this is what we should try, at least as students in the first place.
Exactly. Taking the first step makes some massive difference.
Yeah, it's like be the change you want to be. And also, I feel with empathy, if we show at least a little bit of kindness to like any random person which comes in our lives, it is important that the kindness which we show it affects the person because we don't know what mentally the person is going through. So it's important for us to be a little sensitive to other person's needs.
So, since we are talking about taking care of others, how exactly do you guys take care of yourselves? I mean, we all get overwhelmed from time to time. How exactly have everyone holding up with? What means do you apply?
Yeah, like talking about that, like in my self care routine, I like prefer going on walks in the evening and like just doing like I feel doing your own hobbies helps you a lot to like overcome your mental stress. Like if, for example, if my hobby is cooking or sketching, I just channelize my whole emotions into that. So which helps me to lower my stress and anxiety, I feel. And I feel it's very important for everyone to have a own self-care routine. It can be literally anything. You just have to keep a routine, follow it judiciously.
Yeah, definitely talking about hobbies. Like I dance and I can obviously feel a dopamine rush when I dance. So that forgets like that makes me forget everything, what's happening. Or I either sleep or I talk to a friend. Talking to a friend is something which is like a major that creates a huge difference. So yeah.
For me, it's like going out and playing, literally playing anything. Even it could be mobile games or mostly sports. But again, as Priyangi said, that dopamine rush when you engage in a group activity, it's a good way to cope up with your daily stress of academics, studies, and everything. And since we're on the topic, I think Rishika previously mentioned that having a mental aid kit or a mental kit, it's only limited to psychology students. So I guess it would be really helpful, Rishika, if you could just explain how can we create our own mental health kit, or because people might not even be aware that you need to have something like this. So could you just guide us through the process of having your own personal kit? How can one do it?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up again. I think having your own mental health kit is first the most important step of this part would be understanding yourself, because not everyone has the same personality. I might not enjoy going out and playing sports as much as I would enjoy sitting at home or reading a book. So understanding yourself and how exactly do you respond to various stimuli present to your surrounding makes a big difference to that. So first step would be truly understanding yourself and accepting yourself. You cannot force yourself to become someone who you can't. Obviously you are free to try new things, because that this breaking out of this monotonous routine also helps you a lot. A lot of times your irritation is caused out of your boredom from the same monotonous routine. So breaking out from that makes a massive difference. So a first step would be to understand yourself. Second would be having like I said, if you know what makes you happy and what helps makes relaxes you, make that a part of your routine. For example, I find that when I cook, I it makes me, I don't know. It is the process of cutting stuff up and then putting them on a gas. I don't know. It's some steps, subtle steps like that makes a massive difference to my life. So I enjoy doing that, or I enjoy drawing or creating something. Almost, I think this process is called as sublimation. That's the correct word for it, and it's again, it comes from the under expressing your emotions and taking a break and stepping out of that. So, like I said, you have to understand that portion of it very quickly. The third part of it, I would say, is becoming aware, not like having, obviously having this intrapersonal skill, but also having this interpersonal skill with your peers. When you see, when as I mentioned earlier, the algae method, which refers if you feel that your friend is almost sort of going through this issue alone or has been acting distant and late, don't go around them and poke them or hug them. So okay, just tell me what's wrong with you. Not everyone would respond very well to that. So giving them their space, approaching them lightly, and if they're not comfortable talking with you, encouraging them to talk with someone you are not. It's important to realize that you are not everyone's therapist or everyone's god who is going to save them. Getting that understanding and giving them their space would help make a massive difference to them as well. So again, having this empathetic listening towards others makes a big difference to how you approach everyone from day to day life. And I suppose that's about your and then again, professional help is again, now not all of neither of us here are certified therapists or anything like that. All we can give is a listening ear and encourage them to go to therapist. Sometimes our college has a therapist, we can go talk to them, or just or encourage. And if, obviously that comes with the great privilege, not because again, having a therapist in educational institutes is not a regulated thing in our country. A very few sections of our society can afford to go to that college and able to have that. So that is an again a very important step. So
Yeah,
obviously encouraging that
com-
professional help.
completely agree with you, Rishik, on this. And talking about mental health first aid kit, like we can apply this thing to the education institutions in the way like we can teach the teachers like how to develop an understanding of psychological aspect of children so that they can be a first aid kit to the children. Because like the school is the place where people like understand what is mental health, what is physical health. Like they start differentiating between it. And if the teachers emphasize more on the mental health and start teaching it as a normal chapter, like how they teach other subjects, it'll be a lot of boon to the students, I feel. Don't you think, Tanishka?
Yeah, and especially teens go through a lot of stuff. So, like, it is very necessary to have a counselor in the educational institutes.
Exactly. And also, it's because I forgot to mention it earlier. Your mental health toolkit should also contain stuff that could help you, your stimulus, help you relax your stimulus as well. So that would include having objects to touch, which make you feel comfortable. List of stuff that whose music or sound obviously would help you relax. Seeing stuff that would make you relax. Again, that comes with the part of understanding your own self. So, I suppose since we are coming to the end of this discussion, is there anything anyone would like to add, Tanishka, Priyangi?
Albin, anyone?
Yeah,
Any suggestions or
Yeah,
topics?
I would say that recently we've seen, at least how institutions are acknowledging and embracing mental health. But in my opinion, it is past time we go beyond awareness and actually take action to reduce the stigma and, everything. So this recalled how we used to have this medical checkup day, like in our schools. So I thought in a time with school psychologists placed in education institutions, I think it could be a standard and normal practice for all students to at least meet a counselor. Obviously, those who are in the schools, at least once a year, just as how standard and normal it is for people to seek normal physicians. So yeah, I guess
exactly.
that.
Yeah, completely agree with you.
Making it a part of your routine health checkup, because your mind is a part of your body. It's not
Yeah,
something that
exactly.
is some separate, unique. Obviously, it is unique in its own way, but having that separate day to check up on it, and obviously there are so many tests that we have now, which professionals have designed, can help you understand it much better.
And I believe it should not be limited to one specific day in a year. Like, this should be a habit we ingrain in ourselves. Like, we wake up around at 7 to 8, and then this whole hectic day, you'll be going to work, you'll be attending lectures and assignments, coursework. You won't have time even for yourself. So I guess you need to give a little bit of time to yourself. Just detach yourself from everything, from social media and all possible distractions that you can have, and just stay still, or even try to meditate. Because as Rishika pointed out, in order to have your own mental aid kit, first you have to know yourself. And in order to know yourself, if you won't take the time to actually acknowledge what you have been through, how do you think, what are your desires, what you don't like, what do you accept in people, what do you look up to, in order to think about these things, you need to give yourself time. And I believe to have a healthy mental life and to increase your productivity and for your well-being, you should take some time off from the day, anytime. It could be any time when you're free. Just take a little bit time off and think about yourself. Do take time for your well-being. This is what I think this it must be a habit we ingrain in ourselves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
instead
very
of
good point.
scrolling, yeah, exactly. I was saying that instead of, maybe scrolling feeds or stalking people, I guess it would be far better if we sit down, have a self talk or just introspect our emotions and thought processes. A normal practice of, journaling can also make a huge difference. I am personally, talking to a professional right now, and she has given me this homework of what I have to talk about, and I have to write about my emotions. And it is such a difficult task because I've never done that. I can talk to a lot of people, but like self talk is something which I have not learned and I'm learning. So I guess it is past time we do that and yeah, introspect ourselves.
Yeah, so we really had a very healthy discussion on this topic, which is like in the need of the moment. So thank you everyone for joining and listening to our conversation. Hope you found it very insightful. Thank you everyone once again.
And again, with a small request, as we said before, one of the takeaways we would like to uh, give everyone who listen to this talk is just have a few moments for yourself to think about yourself at the end of the day, or any time of the day you wish. Like Priyanki said, understanding your emotions, writing about how you feel actually is a good way to cope up with the stress. Even I have tried that, and it is rewarding. So we believe, do take time for yourselves, and let us try to make the best of the pandemic, best of the situation we are living in, and all the time this pandemic has given us to think about it, to think about ourselves, and to think about everyone we love.
Yeah, completely agree with you, Alvin, on this.